Welcome back, everyone, to another Halo Flashpoint video. Today, we're going to be going through the Wargames expansion. So this is going to be everything else that kind of came out in Wave 2. And without further ado, let's just get straight into it. First up, we'll do an overview. So just like the Cerberus video I previously did, the Wargames expansion, which I'm going to be calling, came out in late March 2025. If you're in another part of the world, it might be coming out a bit later, maybe mid-April. It came with 4 new models, a new rulebook, a bunch of new cards, some new weapons, some new tokens. For the models from left to right, we have the JFO with a concussion rifle, the CQB with energy sword, the Gungnir with plasma launcher, and the Hazop with M45 shotgun. So these are alternate loadouts to those released in the Cerberus fire team, which I did a video about. It includes new systems of building fire teams and playing games using points system, where you purchase models, you purchase upgrades, you purchase grenades, purchase all a bunch of things. At launch, the Wargames expansion cost £35 from Mantic Games, which is 73 Australian or 46 United States dollars. Game shops that are local to you will generally be cheaper, such as Phoenix Games, which is close to me, $55.99 Australian. This is a bit more expensive than the standard 4 model teams, being £10 more expensive, but it does come with more content, such as the rulebook and the tokens and things. So I guess that's why it has a higher price tag. First up, we're going to go through the models. So since I've already done the Cerberus review, which has already looked at a lot of the stats of these new models, I'm only really going to be comparing these models to the Cerberus models. We'll just do them in order: CQB, Gungnir, Hazop, and JFO. First up, the Spartan CQB. So I'll just go into a brief overview and kind of recap what I talked about in my other video. So it says, the CQB has worse save, but better HP and armor than most models. It has a movement of 1-3, which is similar to Zvezda in that regard. With these stats and the imposing keyword, CQB is going to be quite a potent melee threat. You got the imposing keyword at the bottom, which says it gets a +1 to fighting and a +1 to survive when being fought against. When you charge, you get a bunch of extra dice, and it's just a good time all around. The Wargames model is equipped with an energy sword, and the Cerberus model is equipped with a gravity hammer. Wargames costs 51 and Cerberus costs 50. I'll talk about the points a bit more later, but at the moment there's only 1 point difference between these models, so really the choice of which one you should take on a team is just going to come entirely down to whether or not you like the gravity hammer or the energy sword more. You could only realistically take 3 of these models in a 200 point game because of that extra 1 point, and they need to buy some other things that I'll talk about later. The only real choice is whether or not you like the energy sword or the gravity hammer more. I do like the energy sword more, and I think with the increased armor piercing, that's going to be quite good because of all the models now that have the ability to maybe go up to armor 4, and you're just going to need that extra armor piercing just to be able to punch through and do damage. Next up, the Spartan Gungnir. Brief overview: it has the stable and guarded keywords, which are brand new keywords. It has similar stats to the Mark 7, except it's got 1 worse in the fight. And it also comes with the tactician keyword. The Wargames version is equipped with a plasma launcher and costs 43 points. And a Cerberus version is equipped with an M319 grenade launcher and costs 42 points. So the plasma launcher versus M319, I believe, is quite a tricky choice. So the grenade launcher has frag 5 and it has armor piercing 1, but only range 4. The plasma launcher has range 5, AP 1, frag 4. They kind of go up and down a little bit because you get an extra frag with the grenade launcher, with 1 less frag with the plasma launcher, but the plasma launcher has the keyword lethal, but the grenade launcher can choose a second firing mode with has the EMP keyword, which will turn off shields. So it's kind of like a sticky, except it affects everyone in the cube, whereas sticky will only affect 1 model in the cube. In gameplay and testing, you're probably going to end up deciding which one you like more, but they are both pretty much just a straight upgrade over the Tactician Mark 7 with the assault rifle, because both weapons are able to pin a model. Both weapons are able to damage when they pin a model. They both only cost 2 points more than a Mark 7 with assault rifle. When you make the choice between the plasma launcher and the grenade launcher, I think they'll both be just a straight upgrade over your Mark 7 with assault rifle. Something to note is they both have the stable keyword, which basically lets them ignore the long keyword. So they can shoot weapons with long after making a advanced action. But neither model actually has a long weapon by default, which means you either have to upgrade them with one or they have to find one on the battlefield. So whether or not it makes use of that keyword will kind of be up to you or up to chance. Next up, the Spartan Has Up. The Spartan Has Up is the first model that has the flight keyword. It kind of fills the role of cheapest unit available for the Spartan list currently. It has average or below average stats across the board, which I think makes it not a very exciting choice. It's got 5/5/5s on range, fight and survive, 2/3 movement, 2 armor, HP 4. So it just hasn't got very good stats. The Wargame version is equipped with an M45 shotgun and it costs 35 points. And the Cerberus version is equipped with a spike rifle and has 36 points. Both variants of the Has Up have the knockback keyword on their weapons. The M45 shotgun is kind of just like a pseudo upgrade or maybe like a side grade to the Bulldog. This Bulldog's got armor piercing 2 but no ESD but only lethal 1, whereas the M45 shotgun has armor piercing 1, 1 extra range and lethal 2. Both versions of the Has Up, being the spike rifle and the M45 shotgun, are gonna struggle to punch through most models' defenses. You're only shooting on a 5-up. You only have AP1, only the shotgun has ESD. Generally, you're not going to actually be doing much damage with the shotguns and the spike rifles, but when you do, it should be, especially with the shotgun, should do a lot of damage because that's lethal. So any damage you do with the shotgun will be minimum 3 because it's 1 plus 2. So if you hit someone with the M45 shotgun, you're going to be doing a lot of damage with it. I do feel like the flight keyword is kind of subpar, because it only has limited applications, and those applications will purely depend on what kind of terrain setup you're using. So if you're using a setup that has lots of height and a lot of unique looking terrain, then the flight keyword is going to be really good. But most of the time, you're not playing on stuff like that, especially if you're playing in a more organized event. I still think both models are kind of like my low tier choice amongst these new ones. And then on to the Spartan JFO. So a brief overview of the JFO is it has Scout combined with a 2/3 movement, making a good choice to replace a Zvezda if that is something you wanted to do. It has Armor 3, which combined with the bonus dice that Scout keyword gives you can make it quite a tricky target to actually take down. But please note, it does have Save 5 compared to Save 4. So it's got the same basic stats as the Has Up, but with that Scout and the extra armor, I do feel like that pushes it up a little bit to be a bit better than the Has Up. The Wargames version is equipped with a concussion rifle at 45 points, and the Cerberus version is equipped with a target locator at 45 points. So they both cost the exact same. I do feel like the concussion rifle is the better choice out of the two for a few key reasons. One of which is the concussion rifle is able to shoot indirectly with the grenade keyword, unlike the target locator, which can only shoot directly because of the explosive keyword. The concussion rifle also isn't limited to 2 uses like the target locator, which means over time you're going to be able to do more damage with it. Realistically, with the target locator variant, you're going to want to be upgrading it with a weapon or picking up a weapon on the battlefield because it's probably going to really quickly run out of ammo. I guess another thing to note is the concussion rifle has AP1 and ESD1, which means it's going to probably more quickly punch through armor, unlike the target designator. So say with the target locator, you hit a target, models have 3 armor now. So even if they fail their saves, you're still unlikely to do a bunch of damage with your frag keywords. I guess something to note is there's a flavor loss for the concussion rifle version because the target locator and the JFO armor were in lore developed side by side, or at least developed to work better with the JFO armor. So if you're going for a flavor win, you should choose the target locator version. A roundup of these Fire Team, they don't have a special name, so I just call them Fire Team Wargames at the moment. I do feel like the distribution between, models and what stats are better is pretty even between the Wargames and Cerberus packs. Like, I feel like the Gungnir with Grenade Launcher is probably a bit better than the Gungnir with Plasma Launcher, but I feel like the Energy Sword's a bit better than the Gravity Hammer. So I think both teams offer a lot of good choices. It'd be cool if future sets had a bit more dynamic poses, because a lot of these are just kind of in a static, neutral pose, I'd say. They're not really doing much. They mostly just seem like they're standing there. But the quality of the models is still top tier. I'd even say they might be better than the Spartan version, as you can see down the bottom. They're looking very crisp, and they're now coming in grey rather than the blue and the red of the Spartan edition models. With that done, all the models looked at, we're now going to move on to the Wargames expansion rulebook. A brief overview of the rulebook. It includes 3 new keywords, being the Gungnir keywords that I mentioned a little bit before. There's 2 new faction special rules, being Alliance for the Banished and Return to Sender for the UNSC. It has rules detailing how to use the new points-based Fire Team building mechanic, which is replacing the older draft mechanic of the original rulebook. You're not going to be drafting just 4 models versus 4 models. Now you have points to decide how many you're going to get. And Mantic said for future events and official events, balancing of the game, they're going to be taking in the points-based system and using that to balance the game. It also includes 2 new game modes, being Total Control and Attrition. So points-based building. How do you use? Using the points and rules detailed in this book, players agree to a certain points threshold. So you can choose 150, 200, 250. It depends on kind of how many models you want to get, how upgraded those models are going to be, and you use that as a budget to build your team. You may not mix factions as standard, so you can't have elites with the Spartans as normal. Units may spawn with certain items, weapons, grenades, which all cost a certain amount of points. When a model dies and respawns, they'll get to keep whatever they were purchased with. So if you had a grenade on a model and you throw that grenade, when your model dies, it gets to come back with that grenade as if it was already equipped with it. Another thing to note is when a model also dies, a enemy model doesn't get to take their weapons or anything. Those weapons are just removed from the board until the model respawns. All the unit cards that have been released thus far have been reprinted to reflect these changes and to make it a bit clearer for everyone. So I've gone through and I made a little flowchart just to make it easier for people to see how you're supposed to build a team. So the first thing you do is you set a point limit and choose a faction. So 150 points, 200 points, etc. Both players may choose the same faction or choose different factions. It's entirely up to you. So after that, you must choose at least one special order available to your faction. So if you're playing as the elites, you have to choose, say, Alliance. If you're playing as the Spartans, you might have to choose Return to Sender. If you're using a legendary model such as Master Chief, you have to buy his special order. You no longer get it for free. After that, you choose models for your fire team. You can choose any number of models you want, as long as you have points to buy them. You can have teams of 2 models, teams of 5 models. As long as you got points to buy the models, that's fine. You can have up to 2 of each unique unit card. So you can have 2 brawlers with needlers and 2 brawlers with bulldogs, but you can't have 3 Mark 7s with assault rifles. And as always, you can only have 1 of each legendary unit, so you can't have 2 Master Chiefs. So the next one's optional, as are all the following upgrades. Optional. Choose melee weapon for your unit cards. So each unit card generally no longer includes their knife and or energy dagger, and instead these must be purchased for additional costs. If you still want to have an elite with an energy dagger, you have to pay extra, otherwise it loses that. And unit cards have been reprinted to no longer include the energy dagger. So after that, you choose grenades for your unit cards. So fire teams may have any number of grenades, and these do not count towards carry limits, and are instead treated as though they were printed on the unit card. A model may have up to 2 grenades added, but not the same one twice. Models that already have grenades, such as elites, may still be upgraded with the same grenade. So an elite that starts with a plasma grenade as default may purchase 1 additional plasma grenade, but that elite may not purchase 2 additional plasma grenades because you can't have the same grenade twice. After that, you choose weapons for your unit cards. Fire teams may purchase 1 of each weapon, and these weapons occupy a model's pickup slot. When the model dies, they will respawn with this weapon as though it was first turn. These weapons are not dropped on the battlefield for any reason, nor can they be stolen by an enemy. They will be removed from play until respawn. So if you've paid for a Spanker rocket launcher on your model and you shoot it twice and then it's out of ammo, and then you come and you get killed in a melee from a brawler, that brawler doesn't get to take your Spanker, even though it'd be out of ammo. It doesn't get to take the weapon. You die, and then when your model respawns, it gets that Spanker back at full ammo. After that, you go on to choose items for your unit cards. So fire teams may have any number of items. However, you may only buy each item twice, and the same model may not be given more than 1 of each item. The same as weapons. When a model dies, it will respawn with these items as though it were turn 1. They are never dropped nor stolen. So a model may have 1 overshield and 1 health pack, but it can't have 2 overshields and it can't have 2 health packs. But one model may have an overshield and another model may have an overshield, but you can't have 3 models with overshields. Finally, you choose fire team command upgrades. So a variety of upgrades available, such as a permanent +1 command dice or a single +1 d8 dice on a roll. You may take any number of command upgrades, but you may only select each one once. So I hope that makes it a bit easier for you to build your teams. I just thought I'd include it there to make it clear on a few things, especially the second point, which you must include a special order, because I feel like a lot of people might miss that point. So I've listed the command upgrades here. So they allow for a bit more tactical thinking when you build your teams. I think the 10 points for the extra command dice is generally a must include for most teams. Here I've gone through and I've shown the new unit cards and how they have been laid out as it shows in the book. So at the top left of the new unit cards, it now has the faction icon being the Spartan 2 logo on this one. At the top right, that's where the energy shield goes as normal. On the left is where any melee weapon upgrades, such as a combat knife for a Spartan would go. On the far right is the pickup slot as normal, so that's where your weapon upgrades are going to go. They've changed how the stat line is laid out, so now it's RA 5+, Fight 5+, SV 5+, so all your dice rolling stats are in one solid line now. They have redesigned how the movement and armor and HP look. So the movement is now the 2-3 with arrow facing to the right, just below the ranged stat. The armor is now a downward facing, I guess, echelon or arrow, and that's just below the save stat. And your HP is in a big blue octagon, and that's where you put your wound tokens and such. At the very bottom, that's where your purchased items and grenades will go. On the right, I've kind of shown what a typical unit card might look like once you've gone through and done it how it's supposed to be. So this Hazop that I've made an example of has one M11 combat knife, one needler, it has an overshield, it has a grapple shot, it has a plasma rifle, and it has a frag grenade. So these are all completely legal upgrades that you can take. Points-wise for this full unit card, it is 35 points for the Hazop with M45 shotgun. It is 6 extra points for the needler, 6 points for the plasma grenade, 3 points for the frag grenade, 3 points for the overshield, 3 points for the grapple shot, and 4 points for the M11 knife. So once you add all that together, it is 61 points total. And that's just an example of how that would work. Next up, I've got the new keywords for you, just in case you needed to reference them. So these are not printed in the original book, nor are they in the Cerberus box, which would also need to make use of them. And so the only way to have access to these keywords currently is to purchase the new Wargames expansion box. They are all only relevant to the new Gungnir model, and that's about it. So here we've got the new faction special orders. So for the Banished, it is Alliance, and for the UNSC, it is Return to Sender. Alliance allows the use of 2 of the same short action as long as a model starts its activation in the same cube or adjacent cube to another banished model. That allows a model to potentially shoot, or move, or any combination of short actions that you want. This can allow for some pretty nasty combos, such as a thrice shooting sniper nest elite. Say you've got 2 elites up on a high tower. When one of them activates, it can shoot and then shoot again because it has a friend. And then with the shoot command dice, it can shoot a 3rd time. Or another option is a speedy sword elite. So once again, you've got 2 elites side by side. That elite could move because of the Alliance special order. And then if you got a command dice, it could move again. Say you spawned it with a grapple shot and a thruster, it could move 2 more times. So that sword elite could potentially move up to 7 cubes turn 1 and cut someone down to size. Then we go on to the Return to Sender special rule. So Return to Sender is a hard counter to enemies with grenades. When a grenade lands in a model's cube, you must pass a 3 dice survive test with 2 successes. And if you do, you may take control of the grenade item and throw it back at an enemy after it is landed. And this would trigger before any keywords such as sticky or anything like that would trigger. So basically, your enemy throws a frag grenade into your cube, it lands successfully, or even it scatters and it lands in a cube with another friendly model. You spend your special order, you take that grenade, and at that point is basically your grenade. So this can be pretty annoying for grenade enemies, because you throw that grenade back at the enemy that threw it at you, that enemy then becomes pinned. If they were going to throw a grenade and then charge you, they can't do that anymore, which is good to see. As with all special orders, I feel like the Return to Sender is only going to be really effective in lists that run a high amount of tactician to always have that special order dice available. I was playtesting this the other day, and I managed to get a little bit of footage to show you how it works in game. So here we go. Always good. Another day at the beach. We're on to new weapons, models, and pickups. The Wargames expansion included 11 new weapons across the Wargames/Cerberus expansion. Most of these weapons are featured in the Halo Reach game, keeping to the general Reach theme of this release. So the cards that are featured in red are upgrade cards that you may buy and, give to a model when you're building the team. The ones in blue are battlefield drops and come with tokens to represent them. Note that I haven't pictured every single variant of every card, so some of the ones in blue also come in red, and vice versa. Amongst all these weapons, I think the Spartan Laser is my standout, even though it's the most expensive at 16 points. I feel like its ability to punch through enemies' armor, especially with the move towards higher armor models is really going to be good. All the new weapons are the Spike Rifle. That has two sides, a close combat side and a range side. I've only got the close combat side pictured. We got a Concussion Rifle. We got a Needle Rifle. We got the M6 Spartan Laser. We got the M319 Grenade Launcher. We have the Heat Wave. We have the Plasma Launcher. We have the Plasma Repeater. We have the M45 Shotgun. We have the M6G Magnum. And then we have the H165 Target Locator. Another cool thing that I note is the Magnum comes with the optics keyword, which is kind of like a cool little throwback to the games when you could zoom in with it and make it kind of like a mini sniper. So next up, we're onto the new game modes they released in the Wargames expansion. So this one's called Total Control. So I've got the deployment map pictured on the left, a bit of an overview of how the game mode works. So it says, Total Control features 2 fire teams contesting control zones on the map. You must dominate all areas to achieve success. So this is kind of like a King of the Hill variant that was introduced in Halo Infinite, and obviously this is Halo Flashpoint's version of the game. So the game mode involves randomly generating zones, locations, as shown on the map. So for the A zone, has 4 potential spots being A 1 to 2, A 3 to 4, A 5 to 6, or A 7 to 8. So at the start of the game, you roll a d8 for the A zone, and then that will be where the first A zone will spawn. So a zone is captured when a friendly model is in the zone's cube with no enemy models at the end of any enemy model activation. So you can only capture the zones at the end of an enemy model's turn. When all 3 zones, being A, B, and C, are captured, a point is immediately scored and you re-roll the zone's position. And then if you roll the same spot, you must re-roll because the zone can't be in the same spot twice in a row. So the game mode ends at 3 points or 8 turns, with the leading player taking the victory or drawing if both players are tied. I do think, just like in Halo Infinite, this will probably prove to be a very difficult game mode to be able to score all 3 zones in. And just like with the Oddball and CTF game modes released in the Spartan Edition, will more often than not end with the turn limit being reached rather than the victory point total being achieved. Because if you look at all the zones, they all generally at least 3 moves away from a respawn point. So models can now, because they can spawn with grenades, you could pretty much always be fragged off the zones. And we'll just have to see how it plays out in the long run. Next up, we have new game mode Attrition. Force the enemy to deploy their reinforcements, then eliminate them. So this is a Slayer variant introduced in Halo Infinite. So in this game mode, respawns are restricted with the number available changing depending on your team size and the length of gameplay desired. Basically, if you're playing like a short game, your number of respawns are equal to the number of models. If you're playing a medium game, your number of respawns are equal to 1.5 your models available. So if you have 4 models, 1.5 would be 6 respawns. If you have 2 models, 1.5 would be 3 respawns. When a model dies, a player may either declare it as dead and no longer able to participate, or spend one of their respawns to bring it back. And then obviously it comes back using the normal respawn rules and can only respawn on its next available to do so. When a player has no respawns left, instead of their model being removed from play, they are downed. They may be moved by frag, but otherwise unable to participate any further in the game. However, a friendly model may enter their cube and spend an auxiliary action to pick them up, which is called reviving them, at which point the model stands up with half health and no shields. So if the model hasn't been activated in the turn it was revived, it may still activate, but if the model is revived in a turn where it was already activated, it can't activate anymore. Once both players have no respawns left, the battlefield will begin to shrink, and any models that are left outside the zone when it shrinks are immediately removed from play, as in they just die straight away. The last team standing wins, so the last team that has models that are alive on the battlefield will win, and I feel like this game mode will be pretty good. I think this one will open up a lot of opportunity for the new points building to really shine, because you have the option to maybe take in 2 heavy, hard to kill models, or you have the option to swarm the board with a bunch of cheap models and just try to get victory that way. One more thing is there were a few, or at least one, balance change in the Wargames release. So this wasn't officially mentioned anywhere, but the plasma rifle lost the keyword long, which I think is great. So as you see in the one above, the plasma rifle hasn't got the keyword long, and when you see the Spartan Edition card at the bottom, it still has the keyword long. So they've removed long from the plasma rifle. I think it is a bit concerning that this information wasn't more clearly conveyed anywhere. It wasn't even officially mentioned. It was just something people noticed, and I feel like in the future it might be good if Mantic made it a bit clearer for everyone when they're making changes like that. Even though it's not a huge change, it's still a change. Another thing to note is all models have lost their knives and energy daggers, as I mentioned. These have to be bought now. So the elite at the bottom has an energy dagger with AP 1 and smash 1. The elite at the top has a Sangheili fist with AP 0, smash 1. So you have to spend a few points to upgrade the fist into a energy dagger if you want to do so. I think another thing to mention, and I touched on a little bit before, is the new layout of the card. So the stat line, as I mentioned, for the dice are all in one sort of line. The range stat, the fight stat, and the save stat, all side by side. And these are the 3 stats you need anytime you roll dice. So it's good that they're all together. I do feel like the introduction of symbols for movement and armor sacrifices legibility for aesthetics. Like, it's easier for a brand new player to pick up a unit card, see that Armor 1 or AR 1, and you can clearly understand that. But when you pick up a unit card and you say, oh, your armor is your downward facing blue arrow with the number in it, that's a bit harder for new players to pick up. So although the new unit card looks cool, I do feel like it's sacrificed a little bit in the pick up and playness versus the original cards. And so here's the roundup of the Wargames expansion. So I feel like points-based list building will really open up the game to a lot more variety and strategy and team composition. You have a lot more leeway to build teams you like, which will be good. They've added a few fantastic models to the game, especially for old-timey fans that liked Halo Reach. I think the Gungnir is definitely one of the best in Halo Reach, but I guess it's up to personal choice. So new keywords and special orders being locked behind the Wargame box is a bit disappointing, as was the lack of messaging on the balance change on the plasma rifle. I feel like in the future, Mantic could make those things a bit easier for everyone, but we'll just have to see how they do the next set of upgrades or updates. So a quick thought. There's seemingly an abundance of frag, both in the new weapons and the ability for every model to spawn with grenades. This may see a severe meta shift to near constant pinning, and models with the Stoic and Fearless keywords being at a premium. Stoic and Fearless allowing models to ignore being pinned. We're going to have to see how the game and meta pan out and just see what happens. So what's up next for the channel? So I'm going to go through and I think in my next video, make a few lists and kind of explain the thought process behind them and see maybe if you want to play them and let me know how they go. But with that, we're done with this video. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you would be so kind, it'd be great help to me if you'd like, favorite, subscribe, all that good stuff, because it really keeps me motivated to make new videos. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.